Hello and welcome to this weekend's edition of Unplugged. Now, one thing which I keep hearing is that you can't make money in Indian stock markets if you don't know Gujarati. Is that right? Let's ask someone who's well versed with Gujarati. In fact, a stock market veteran, Nilesh Shah from KOTAK Mutual Fund is my guest for this show. Nilesh, always a pleasure talking to you about markets. This time we're trying to have an unplugged conversation with you. So is this really right that if you don't know Gujarati, you can't make money in stock markets?
So if you define Gujarati in the form of certain characteristics and traits, then yes, even a Tamilian can have those Gujarati DNA. And those traits are necessary to make money. There's no doubt about it.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the Gujarati proverbs, which are very popular in stock markets. Which is your most favorite one?
So the most favorite one is Nana Vagarno Nathiyo, Nane Natha Lal. It essentially says that if you don't have money, people will call it Nathiyo Nathiyo. But when you have money, people will call you Shet Natha Lal.
Okay.
Warren Buffett put it very nicely that money is not important in life, money is not everything, but make sure that you have made enough money before you make such statement.
Okay, that's a good one. The other one that we keep discussing is something related to a lot of noise. I forgot that. You were telling me about that long back.
So in Gujarati there was a poet called Akho, and he used to write in a very earthy language. So one of his chappo was this: Vaab ayo ane naryu khasyu, e joine kutru bhasyu, koઈએ kehto mein ditho chor, thai gayo shor bako.
What does that mean?
So it means that when the wind blew, the roof tile moved. But someone said, oh, there is a thief. And then the whole news spread around a robbery. And there was so much of noise. We hear that in market every day. I mean, Brexit, there was so much of noise. At the end of the day, market is higher than what it was before Brexit. So in the market, like in real life, you will always have to differentiate what is news versus what is noise.
Okay, so that's news versus noise. Nilesh, one thing which I always wanted to ask, and I asked this to Madhu as well, and I'll ask you as well. You have been some of the best fund managers. You have picked so many stocks for your mutual funds, of course. Has this thought ever occurred to you that, why am I doing this for a mutual fund? I could have done this for myself and made a lot of money. What keeps some of the most successful fund managers still in a fund and not, managing their own money?
So there's a beautiful poem by Makrand Dave. He's again a Gujarati poet. And the poem is something like this: Gamtu mariye to Allah, gunje na bhariye. Gamta no kariye gulal. So if you find something good, you don't put it into your pocket. You spread it. You spread happiness. And over a period of time, I have realized that one, my job does give me enough money. It doesn't give me huge money, but it gives me more money than what I need. And second, it gives me blessings. So one day I had to take my wife to Bombay hospital, and I needed desperately to meet a doctor whose appointments were not available for 10-15 days.
Okay.
And here, with little bit of cajoling, I could get an entry. And the doctor spent considerable amount of time examining my wife. And when we were coming out, he didn't give me any chit. So when I moved out, I asked the receptionist how much money I have to pay. And she said, you would have got a chit. So I said, no, I haven't got any chit. She called inside and said, there's no need for money. So I said, but why? I need to pay. The doctor spent good enough time. Then she said, no, doctors have said don't collect money. So I pipped inside and said, sir, why about money? And he said, Nilesh, I'm an investor in your fund. They have done well. Just keep on doing that. So this kind of blessings you get in this job. This you wouldn't get if you have lots of money.
Okay, so that's one doctor's blessing that you've got. You have been to our investor camps a lot of times, and there have been a lot of stories of there also people walking up to you and saying that they have made money in your mutual funds.
Yeah. So I remember long back, I think when CNBC investor camp was started.
You were our first guest in our first
one.
investor camp, yes.
And we did one in Calcutta Swarn Bhumi complex. And after about 10-12 years, an old lady came in one of our other seminars and put blessings on my head saying that, beta, we were doing question answer post camp, and you had said what are the characteristics of picking up stock. Based on that, I had picked up Asian Paints, and I'm so happy. And I'm also a SIP investor in mutual fund. When an 86 or 87-year-old lady gives you that blessings, you know you have done your job. Uh, I have another example. I had gone to visit Siyat Mahal, and a chowkidar over there, the watchman over there, looked at my face, and he was trying to, say something. So I walked over to him, and then he said, "Look, I have been watching you in CNBC, and you have always talked about SIP and asset allocation, and I am doing SIP." Now, when you meet a watchman saying that I am doing SIP, then you know your life is worth.
Yeah. So, Nilesh, for a lot of people who have missed out on the current rally, for example, when is the best time to start a new SIP?
The best time to start is when you have money. You haven't missed out anything. I mean, when I started my career, India was about $200 billion in GDP. Today we are $2 trillion in GDP. That's $1.8 trillion growth. In next 10 years, we are probably going to double that. So whatever we saw in last 25 years is going to get repeated in next 10 years. If you missed out buying Infosys, if you missed out buying Sun Pharma, if you missed out buying Kotak Bank, doesn't matter. There will be many more opportunities in next 10 years. So when you have money, just start investing. It's not late.
Okay, it's not late. So let's talk about some of your big investments. I was reading that this whole story on Bosch, that at 100 face value it was available at 1500 rupees. You bought a large quantity of that for your fund, and we had Nilesh Shah of Enam also buying a quantity of that. 10 or 15 years from that point, we have now a 10 rupee face value stock going up to 20,000 and an index stock. Fascinating story. Take us through that, and also the fact that we keep hearing Nilesh Shah's name for Bosch, but not your name.
So, one, I bought it in fund, not in my personal name.
Yeah.
Second, the way we identified this stock was essentially based on the fact that whenever we went to meet Tata Motors, they would always say that I'm dependent upon Bosch in terms of what components they supply. Those were the days of the early 90s, mid 90s, where if a component maker could control the original guy, original equipment maker, the power. At that point of time, there was a big FII who was a seller of that stock, and that's where the stock had corrected to about 1750 from 2500. There were very few people who were willing to bet against that FII. We did our homework and thought that this is great stock to buy, and we picked up that stock. And then it was, later on we realized that we were not the only one to pick up that stock. There was another gentleman also whom we could, rely upon, who bought that stock. And then the rest is the history. That stock has done fantastically well.
Yes.
And, in stock picking, all you need is to back up your guts with calculations, with data, with analytics, and the job is done.
So do you think the equity scarcity premium or whatever it is for companies like Bosch, that's always going to remain, these stocks are always going to remain expensive as they are right now?
No, I can't say that with surety. Like human life, you become young, then grow old. Surely in valuation also maturity will come. But as long as a company like Bosch retains their competitive advantage, they retain that technological moat, which others can't, jump over, they will definitely retain their premium. It's all about companies running hard to remain in the place they are. Certainly Bosch today gives that, confidence that they will retain their technological edge.
Okay. You have made money in stocks which have destroyed value. Satyam is a case in point. Yeah. Deccan Chronicle is the other case in point. Tell us the story about how did you manage to make money in these stocks, and what does that tell you about the psyche of stock market or timing in stock markets?
So in Satyam's case, in my fund, we had always remained underweight on this stock. And this was primarily driven by the fact that all the technology companies were invested in my mutual fund, but Satyam never invested any money. They were never invested in liquid fund, never in income fund, never in gilt fund. And that was kind of strange. We always wonder, what is this company doing with the cash? So we have always underinvested in Satyam vis-a-vis benchmark. Now, there was a time when Satyam suddenly announced that they are merging Mitas Infra into that company. That resulted into a correction in the stock. And at that point of time, we thought that, oh, the correction has happened, stock is becoming cheap. Even if we ignore other income, probably it's worth buying. So we bought Satyam. Now, as the luck would have it, Mr. Raju came on television on CNBC channel, I vividly remember, and he made a confession that there's no cash in the balance sheet. As the luck would have it, I was standing right next to my dealer, and I said, dump all our Satyam. I didn't wait to speak to my fund managers. I simply said, whatever is our sellable quantity, just give the order to sell. And we were lucky enough to sell and make profit over our acquisition cost. On that day, I remember Satyam fell from 180 rupees to 10 rupees.
Yes.
And we could exit at a reasonably high level and still make profit in Satyam. So there, my guess is that it was more of a luck. The news came on television, you were standing.
More than luck, would you say that, if you, for example, if you get a conviction that something is wrong, then sell, no matter what the price is, no matter, I mean, you would have sold even if you were at minor losses or say 20% mark-to-market losses.
I didn't put any price limit on my order. We just decided to sell.
Okay. So that's an important lesson as well,
quantity
right?
was little less, it wasn't very huge. Maybe we were lucky. But obviously you have to give quick reaction when news comes. On the other hand, Deccan was a case where we were IPO investor. We did our research on the company. We saw the company moving from Hyderabad market to Chennai market to Bangalore market. And the stock actually delivered about 6-7 times return to us. We had almost near 10% stake in the company. There was one great research analyst called Prabhat Avasthi from Nomura. One day he came with a research report saying that the advertising revenue shown by this company in Hyderabad is more than the total advertising revenue of Hyderabad, including Telugu and English newspaper. My first reaction was, this is not true. How can this be? But then he persisted with his data. He arranged our meeting with one of the media buyers. We did our homework and we realized that yes, this is true. Then we looked at the balance sheet of the company. The company's cash was going up and so was the debt.
Okay.
And then we took a call that it's time to book profit. We started getting out of that shares. And on the other hand, some marquee buyers were buying that stock. Some big FII, some very, very respected mutual fund. Obviously, it put doubt in our mind. Are we the only guys who is doing this kind of work? Then we did one more thing. We collected Deccan Chronicle newspaper over 10 days, measured every single advertisement which the company had sold, and then divided that by the revenue to arrive at what is the price of per square centimeter.
Yes.
That price was higher than Times of India in Mumbai. We sold all our shares. So we were lucky, or maybe we did our work well to get out of that stock.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting you said marquee investors. I thought, you will be among the most marquee ones. Let's do one thing. We are taking a break on that note. Once we come back, we'll carry forward this discussion and have a lot more interesting conversation as well about Nilesh's life.